Hello and welcome to Camera Centre UK's podcast. We haven't actually named the podcast yet, so if you've got any suggestions, put it in down below. But today we speak to David and Sam from Formatt Hitech about the filter systems, the Gold Bloom filter, as well as legacy glass and a whole heap of other subjects as well. These guys are incredibly knowledgeable because they've been in the cinema industry for a really long time. And I hope you enjoy the podcast. I'll pass you on over now. Today we've got Formatt Hitech. And you guys, so if you want to just introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm David. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Formatt Hitech. I work on a lot of development of products as well as the R&D.
I'm Sam Higgins. I work with David at Forma Hitech. I'm the marketing executive and in-house cinematographer at Forma Hitech.
Oh, sick. So of course we met at Wales and West. It was really awesome just sitting around and talking to you guys, and also all of the amazing content creators that you brought with you as well. So yeah, what was your experience at Wales and West?
I think we really enjoyed the Wales and West. We did the first one, not this year, the year before.
Yeah.
And, had a lot of promise to it. This one we really enjoyed. It's quite an intimate show. So we do a lot of shows around the world. And sometimes they get so big you can't deal with people. But this one was really quite nice. You've got all the mixes of kind of the top brands are there as well anyway. But you get to spend time with people. We're able to run some workshops and have ambassadors talking with people. So we really enjoyed it, especially being a Welsh company and having a show in Wales. It's the one we don't have to travel too far from.
Yeah.
So, it was really good for me.
Yeah.
I think the cue's in the title myself, like from an outsider coming in. I've been in Wales for quite some time now, but the Welsh are known for being very friendly, and I think you hit that on the head there, that the Wales and West show, because it's so intimate, it's far more friendly, which I think customers and consumers react better to, because you actually get hands-on with the big people that turn up with the brands themselves. You get to talk to some very influential people with brands. So what I love about Wales and West, we go to all the others, we go to BSC Photo Show and all the rest of those, and as David said, they can feel a bit more impersonal because it's far more international. But with Wales and West being, I think it hones Wales. I think Camera Centre UK being a Welsh company, it hones that friendliness of Welsh people. I love that about the culture.
Yeah, I'd like 100%, because I think that's what I felt from everybody that were there, really, and it was nice to see from both kind of someone experiencing the show, because of course I'm just there to film it, but then also from working the show as well, that everyone was so friendly. The brand's really into it overall, and everybody was just having fun, talking about the gear and just generally enjoying it. Of course, at Wales and West we did have the soft launch of the Phillip Bloom Gold filter, which I must admit I really like.
It's a good filter.
It's a really good filter.
You can still get that at Camera Centre UK as well. It's the only place you can get that. It's the event exclusive edition. So,
yeah, by all means, get it. But what I really like about it, because I've shot a number of things now, I've been using it pretty much exclusively with the YouTube videos. There's at least one shot in every video that's got it.
Nice.
But the other side of it is I actually shot a wedding with for a YouTuber recently, and I shot pretty much the entire wedding with the 35-1.2. I know I go on about it a lot. I like the lens, and then the gold filter, and it was really, really good for that kind of situation. And I feel like once it officially comes out, you're going to end up having a filter there that just needs to be shown to certain industries, and they will get it, because it's like, for example, I was shooting bride prep with it, and in that situation, the Gold Bloom filter was really useful. And of course, you do some weddings here and there as well.
Yeah. So I still do. I'm primarily a commercial cinematographer. I'm working more towards narrative. I've done a few narratives. And I want to become full-time DP. So that's the dream. But yeah, I shoot videography as well. So commercial videography, wedding videography. If it's got a camera involved, you'll find me there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, I can see how. In a wedding the gold would.
And one point to make out, part of the research and development process was actually me and Sam actually filmed a wedding with it.
Yeah, it's true.
So as part of the actual development process of the filter, we actually, we want to identify where people might use it and the kind of equipment that we use it. So we shot the wedding with things like our Blackmagic cameras, but also Lumix. So the idea was to really test it on the kind of hybrid systems to see how they work. So a lot of our products, Formatt Hitech's always cinema first.
Yeah.
So our development and our heritage comes from feature films. So we've got a long experience of diffusion filters. So that the Bloom filter is a cinema grade filter. The way it's made, it's exactly the same as a cinema filter. But we wanted to make sure that it really fit with that kind of new generation of the kind of hybrid cameras. as well as commercial cinema cameras. So we test them on things like Reds, REs, but also we'll do Lumixes, that Sony A7s, of course, you know, ever popular. FX3s.
Well, for that one, we had the FX30 pre-launch, and we actually shot. It was St. Fagans, I think.
St. Fagans.
Yeah, we actually shot St. Fagans FX30 to make sure that it was the kind of, you know, for as David said, all fields. It was something that would be useful, and then it was, you know, it was beautiful fields.
100%. Like I said, I really enjoy the filter personally, and I actually really want to do a video on the filters in general. Yeah. So
Great to see.
I'm excited to do it because I think it's something people, you know, jump over quite quickly here and there. You know, I've always, you know, either just had NDs or like I don't tend to actually put UV filters on, which is
no, that's a hot topic, isn't it? UV filters, what are they for? You know, these days anyway, at least. Like we regularly, so me and Davis share an office similar to this one, and I know the viewers can't see that, but we'll be at either ends of the office to each other, and we'll see something ping up, and it will just spark this debate. I'm far more cinematography and background. David does cinematography as well, but he's far more broadcast background. So there's these two evil paths that meet, and we kind of like collide with these ideas in the middle. Luckily, you know, we both cross each other's fields, so we were able to see the sense of different directions. But yeah, UV is one that's,
I think, playing devil's advocate with UV, they are valuable from stopping scratching. So although your camera has really good internal UV filtration, in the UK they're a bit pointless. Like in countries with more UV, you know, something like a UV 400 at altitude becomes a really useful filter. It's not much use in the UK. You know, at sea level it's not doing
we
it.
probably just lost about 50% of your viewers, by the way.
But,
no, don't worry about it.
but
It's one of those things, like,
but if you like down at the beach or something, the idea is that the filter will take the impact and the scratching and things like that, and a lot also if you're using cheaper lenses or more consumer lenses that breathe, especially they open and close, you add a little bit of extra weather sealing to the lens by putting that in there. That when you get into the really expensive commercial lenses fully sealed, less so. But you know, what's a UV filter? They're quite cheap. What's a front element to your lens? They're quite expensive. So
100%. I would accurately say that me not having UV filters is an active disgrace, because I probably should.
We should send you. But
it's something that I haven't necessarily done.
Because if you're going to have UV filters, you might as well have the best in the business as well.
This is it. There's a distinction between UV filters and good UV filters that don't degrade the sharpness.
I think that's the point. I think a lot of people who don't like UV filters, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about kind of cheap resin or low-grade glass. So Formatt Hitech only uses Shot B270 glass. So that's basically the highest graded glass you can get. So it's as good or better than what's in your lens, and that makes a big difference. So if you put a cheap bit of like plastic in front, it's going to look horrible. But if you've got a quality one, which there's no reason not to have a quality one, not that expensive, you know, it's not going to degrade the image, or it's going to degrade it so small that you're not going to notice. So all our filters go through something called collimation. So we test the focus at 1600mm. So we know that they're still as sharp at 1600mm as they were before. Obviously, there's not many people shooting through two telescopes glued together. So we're quite confident, you know, that it's not going to degrade it.
I mean, you raise a good point there. Like someone in my industry, we consider the resolution of the lens, which is probably something a lot of consumers don't think about in terms of kit lenses and those kind of things, and what you're using them for. We have to when it comes to glass, because we're putting an additional layer in front of a lens, and if a lens is already a low resolution lens or doesn't have a great image circle, then I think you're right. I think with obviously the very, very, very cheap UV filters that come with everything.
You got to be careful. It's important about buying quality, and you know, I do really like the fact that you are a Welsh brand, at least to a certain extent, a Welsh brand, because you make everything in Wales. Is that correct?
Yeah,
we would design, manufacture in Aberdeen. And then we export lots of it around the world. So we'll sell it. We've got a subsidiary in America, and we'll sell it to Asia, Japan, places like that. So a lot of people think that everything's coming from Asia to us, and that's true for a lot of people. But actually, we're exporting our technology all around the world.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So it's made literally in the Welsh valleys, and as David said, we don't. Whereas a lot of other companies, I won't say any names, they might import things from manufactured elsewhere. We actually do the reverse. We manufacture here, and then we export. So we're quite proud of that, actually. We're South Wales Valleys. Look it up.
Yeah,
whole history there.
So of course you make this distinction behind you guys being, like made for cinema. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're trying to push with the new Phillip Bloom Gold filters. You're trying to push this kind of tech for filters onto like mirrorless cameras that day-to-day people would use, and I do think it's very important. And of course you shoot a red camera, red Komodo, and then you also use a Lumix S5 Mark II, is it?
Yeah. So as David, I've been in the company for about a year now, and I run my own services separately alongside that. So I'm well aware of what's going on within the cinema circuit, if you like. So I'm not camera agnostic. I wasn't until I turned red, and I'd always used red. I absolutely love their system. I love their files. I love their footage, and that's why I stuck with red. But on the side of that, there's always work or jobs moving forward, social content. We're all having now to shoot reels and vertical as opposed to just horizontal. So taking a Komodo to do that is like taking a tank to open your door, So I do move through other camera systems quite frequently. As I said, we had the FX30, but I started with Format a year ago, having the S5 as like my lower budget shooting piece because I love the footage out of it, and it's such a great camera. I've also won photography awards, so with that camera, and it takes fantastic images, stills. Moved on to the Sony FX30, had Blackmagic, so I'll chew through cameras like that, like fun. Bigger productions, obviously I rent cameras, I rent REs and so on and so forth. But yeah, at the moment, my go-to, because I actually sold the FX30, considered the FX3 and a couple other iterations, I went back to my old S5 Mark I, so not the Mark II. I get on quite well with Lumix, so there's potential to get an S5 II or an S5 IIX, but I really love the original S5.
Yeah. Oh, so it's original S5.
Yeah.
I thought you had the Mark II.
No. I so like as a commercial cinematographer, everything I do is I've either got an AC, or if I'm doing it myself, I pull focus myself. All I focus isn't something I ever consider.
Because that's the thing that as you can see.
Yeah,
I'm a so maybe considered a Sony fanboy to a certain extent.
Yeah, definitely.
But, no, like I'm one of these people, because I've worked in a camera shop. I have experienced pretty much every camera.
Yeah.
I've settled on Sony because, in general, for what I do, they're just reliable because of that autofocus. Because I don't need anything more than 4K. But I will admit, I did have a go with the S5 Mark II.
Yeah,
it was a really interesting camera, and it's one of those things where like I would like to test them out a little bit more.
Yeah,
because they are starting to add that autofocus in with the new S5 Mark II, and see how it goes. But like this is the thing which I think, kind of going back to Formatt Hitech, because we need to talk about it to a certain extent, is like these filters are cinema grade, so they're designed for what you're talking about when it comes to the red Komodo, where you got this big expensive glass. You need to make sure it's as sharp as possible.
Yeah, so
going for something made like distributed or made by you guys, Formatt Hitech, that is going to be the quality that you need to be able to get the image even on the lower budget cameras.
So these the Phillip Bloom filter, for instance, is all the same glass. So if we're making a piece for Greg Fraser, if we're making a piece for Oy van Hoytema, if we're making a piece for any one of your favorite cinematographers out there, there's a potential that your filter has come from that same piece. We don't it's ironic today we're using non-plastic cups, which is great. We love that. We've brought you a present today as well. It's made from recumbent wood. It's all manufactured, and that was our big thing at Wales and West. Everything we had there from our samples on display for everyone, they were all waste product. Now we call them waste. They all have a microscopic scratch on it somewhere that neither Dave or I could ever spot. Our quality control process is like 16 steps of, like, it has to be the finest because it is shot for Hollywood. And every product that we sell, be it for Hollywood or for a local consumer or hobbyist, it goes through exactly the same process. There is no difference for us in terms of quality. You know, we do everything. Obviously, we get a lot of waste then because of that, so we do everything to reduce our waste footfall.
Yeah.
So like with the Phillip Bloom, particularly in this instance with the Phillip Bloom product, that is of no difference quality to what someone would be shooting with an RE Alexa, with a Red Komodo, with anything really.
I think one of the points on that is we shoot cinema first because they're willing to pay for the R&D they expect. So they'll pay £700 a filter, they don't care, most of the 100 million. So the challenge is always bringing that manufacturing cost down. So that's why it sometimes takes some time. But the way that Philips filters make completely different from a normal diffusion filter from another manufacturer. So rather than being sprayed on glass or like a sticker, it's 3 layers. So that we literally cast a cell of a specialist resin that's mixed in-house. Then we put the shot glass on it. It's polished for 6 to 8 hours per filter. And they're heavily handmade. They're as handmade as they can be. So we don't fly products out the shelves. It's not like a conveyor belt that makes them. Everything's kind of artisanally made. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're buying a photography product or you're buying a cinema product. It's the same. So filters that we might do for Star Wars in Firecrest ND, if you buy Firecrest ND for 85mm or 100mm or a screw and circle, it's the same glass, it's the same coating, same person made it, same QC. And the idea behind that is, with the way that film sets work, you don't have one camera now, you have a drone, 2 or 3, you've got A cams, B cams, behind the scenes, crash cams. We can provide exactly the same optical quality to any camera system imaginable. And at different price points too. But that means that if you buy a screw and filter from Phillip Bloom, it's as at home on a film set as maybe a Panavision equivalent would be. You're not going to see an optical quality. So you could walk onto a film set of your A7 to do the BTS, you have exactly the same quality of product as the A cam that's filming the movie.
Mad.
That's one of the things we're really proud about how we operate.
Yeah, I mean, you're due to come down soon, obviously, so you'll see yourself that. As
I'm excited.
Yeah, there's no conveyor belt. There are a select group of people that have been there for many decades, and as David said, it's almost artisanally done. And these people take pride in every single piece of glass that goes out. It's not. So unlike other companies where, as David said, there might be massive sheets of whatever it is that they're using where they get sprayed. I mean, the great thing about that, there's a story about that, talking about Hollywood. Greg Fraser is a big fan of ours, quite vocally so. And the reason being, was it Mary Magdalene they were shooting?
Originally they were filming on Solo, and they had an expensive Japanese filter. I won't say too much about that. But they were surface coated. And what was happening was the sand on the beach.
That's right.
It was eroding it. So they went to Formatt Hitech for a solution, which we created in Firecrest. But then in Mary Magdalene, we actually have a quote from him, it's 50-mile-an-hour winds and everything's just getting hit with sand, but he's confident, he's got the best neutrality and also the robustness of a product that can handle that. So that's another thing about the construction. When I say we make it differently, it's made to last. So we take products to places like Iceland to test, we send them out to the Sahara Desert. They really get a kicking before they come to market.
So how that transpires to your customers is, if you were to get dirt or sand or whatever over it, you're doing a seascape, long exposure seascape, Barry Island, Porthcawl somewhere in Wales, and it's getting blasted with sand. The difference between ours and the others on the market that are available that are sprayed is ours you can go and wash it off in the sea, and your filter will be absolutely fine. There's no problem with that. The others, you're most likely going to lose coating, have apparent scratches, light leaks in your neutral density, so on and so forth. You can't do that with ours. You can scratch the glass, obviously glass is scratchable, but you can also literally go to your kitchen sink and get some washing up liquid and clean it off, whereas with others that washing up liquid would strip your filter effect off. So that wouldn't happen with a Formatt Hitech filter. So, and it's through, as David said, the research and development of these big Hollywood productions that we're able to provide consumers a product that is of the same, or exactly the same quality.
Fair enough.
Your edit's getting worse.
No, it's fine. It's boiling in here. It's like, yes, we need this, but like my future self is like, damn it, Stuart.
Fix it in post.
Fix it in post. Like Adobe. Have you tried Adobe Podcast?
No, it wasn't out by the time I last used it.
It's insane. It's insane.
That's the AI auto edit thing.
No, it's not the auto edit.
Auto cut, isn't it?
No. It's the audio. thing.
Resolve's got.
Well, Resolve's already got it. I need to change to Resolve.
Voice isolation,
Oh my
that's
god.
Resolution is bonkers.
Yeah.
But you used that on the 70-200, didn't you?
Huh?
You used the audio for your vocal channels very clear on the 70-200 video, and you use that.
So of course, we still use the DJI mics.
Yeah, they're great
to record.
Yeah.
They're crystal clear. But just sending it right through Adobe Podcast, or you could probably just do it straight.
Resolve voice, yeah.
Well,
I was listening to it. I was like, this is clean. Like, it shouldn't be this clean. So I'm going to ask you.
How it's shot, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
It's like what?
So it's definitely got a mic on. I could see your little metal thing.
Yeah.
Because I bought mine cheap. I got mine 40 quid off because it didn't have those metal things. So I had 40 quid off of it, and I already had a £30 voucher with DJI, so I had mine dirt cheap. Yeah. I wish I had those squares now. I can't find them anywhere. But I was like, yeah. So he's mic'd up. I can't see a lav, so that's straight out there. And so I was going to ask you if you.
It's one of those. Okay, the tool is good. It's not perfect though. Yeah. It's one of those because Chris, the guy who's filming me at Wales and West, his FX6 was new, and I needed to check over the settings, and I did it straight away, so he didn't actually record the audio channel while we were doing our talk.
Yeah.
So I put it through there, and I will admit, it's the funniest audio track I have ever heard.
Very
because
robot-y.
it tried, not even robot, it just sounds completely off. Because if it's fixing something, it's going to adjust the pitch and tone to what it can hear. So effectively, if it hears like a higher voice in the background, it'll then start trying to apply that to it. I've got to send it to you. I got to send it to you. It's genuinely funny, but it's useful.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a really good segue actually, because you got all this kind of like AI tools and camera technology getting bigger, better, and all of that. Do you think like proprietary, like outside kind of like accessories like filters, mics, all of that kind of stuff, do you think it's actually worth still doing it like that?
These days, I think AI, I mean, this happened with green screen, this happened with CGI, this happened with volumetric shooting. We're still reeling off the back of volumetric shooting. Volumetric shooting come along with curved LED screen. So if you've seen The Mandalorian, if you've seen anything lately, it's shot with some form of volumetric shooting, and everyone's like, this is it, it's the end of sets. And prior to this podcast, we had the discussion about Oppenheimer, where Nolan was very, I'm not doing that. There's 100 VFX shots done in camera. There's 0 CGI in that film, and it's shot on film. So and it's also got a 100-day theatrical release. So there won't be any Netflix or anything like that. It's back to original form. So going back to your question, AI popped up, and it's not really AI. It's the same tools we've already had. Like generative. People think generative fill is this new magic AI tool. It's clone stamp made faster. That's all it's doing. Is it's taking this image and it's clone stamping next to it. It's nothing new. We had a big discussion going back to Wales and West. We had a big discussion with some creators that we took out for dinner that we brought to Wales and West, because I made the very bold statement, and I stick by it. Dual native ISO doesn't exist. It's a marketing term. And I'm happy to explain that. We'd probably take the whole podcast over doing it. Basically, there is a functionality that they say is dual native ISO. That functionality does exist, but the terminology ISO, this cup is to an ISO standard, it's the International Standardization Organization. It doesn't mean that it's great in low light. My phone has to be to an ISO standard. This wood has to be to an ISO standard. So we didn't have a way of measuring differences in light sensitivity. Now Sony, as you said, you're a fanboy of Sony.
Those words were hard for him to say.
The FX6 is a great example of how Sony have recognized this marketing term's getting old and unapplicable, because now they're using Cine EI, exposure index, which is probably the best way to talk about digital gain in sensors. Back to your question, AI, it's just a marketing term. It's not actual artificial intelligence. No. It's just functionality recoded in a different code. So when you look at what we do with cameras, particularly filters, and the way that we use them, dynamic range is creeping up, and ND has its day. We predict the market is 10 years tops for ND before dynamic range of filters, dynamic range that you would alter using neutral density filters aren't necessary anymore, and we're seeing more and more internal ND's internal neutral density filters, like on your FX6, coming into play as well for those points where you may have messed up exposure. Someone like me within the cinema industry or commercial cinematography, where I define myself as, this term's being thrown around so much on YouTube at the moment that I'm a cinematographer, I'm a DP, and all the rest of it. It gives me a headache. A cinematographer, the difference between a cinematographer and a videographer, and both fields are necessary and just as equally important. I do videography and I do cinematography, and I differentiate the two. Videography, I will turn up and I will shoot what's there, like a wedding. Cinematography, I will design the set and I will shape the light, and I will essentially paint digitally as the director sees fit. So when you consider that those shots need to be so deliberate, you need a certain level of tools to do it, and AI isn't gonna supersede that. And I think what you're starting to see, what I think is starting to see within this industry, is the amount we're seeing AI and AI terror is tail ending down now. It's becoming a tool that we use, like green screen, like CGI, like volumetric shooting. It's a great tool in the box to have, and I think it lives with ND, with diffusion, with everything else that cinematographers and videographers use.
I think that's quite apt, to be honest with you, because I think half of, like, it was interesting because a lot of these conversations happened around the time AI was getting used for these tools, right? And it was getting to the point where, like, people were like, oh, I'm gonna lose my job. No, it's gonna make a lot of things easier for you to be able to produce videos and photos, give you the ability to do it differently. And I think at the end of the day, the tools that you have are, they're going to allow you to be able to shape the light, shape what you're doing, a lot easier.
I think with AI, it's a great way to simplify tasks. It's not good at jobs. Also, what we do, all of us, and the people watching most likely, because they're customers of yours, it's an art, and that's a very humanistic thing. So I think AI can replicate a lot of, we call it AI because it's a recognizable term, same as ISO. I think AI is great at assisting people that might not be at a level of their artistic path that they'll be able to achieve some things, and that's great. It's an enabler in that form, and that's wonderful, but you'll never take that humanistic portion, that feeling out of it. There's no empathy, there's no sympathy, there's no, we all love cinema because it's escapism, and it provokes us to think and emote, and technology can't do that yet. I don't think they'll ever be able to do it to a form that other humans won't recognize it as artificial. Someone's lying to you, you can tell. And essentially that's what AI does for you in art.
I think the best kind of analogy, and I'd like to get your opinion on this as well, David, but the best analogy I think of when it comes to this is, like, a rock's just a rock until you view it as a hammer. Do you get what I mean?
That's really good.
It's the best way to kind of think about it is meaning can only be derived by people that can apply meaning to it. So if you've got an AI creating something, we're not applying meaning to, the only meaning that we're applying to it, of course, is that line of text that we put into the program to create the photo. But when it comes to actually creating something, you may be able to fool some people, but at the end of the day, the greater achievement is doing it for yourself. And I think going back to Oppenheimer there, I think this is why it's so raved about. It's an excellent movie. I mean, you've seen it as well, haven't you?
I haven't.
You've not seen
I
it.
have not had a chance to get to the cinema yet.
A little bit judged.
A lot bit judged.
A little bit, yeah. But this is what I think Christopher Nolan is respected doing, is he's not cheating. Although it's not really cheating because it's tools still, but he's doing everything from scratch in a very realistic, original kind of sense as to what cinematography is to him and to a lot of people that enjoy the art form. What's your opinion on it?
For me, the AI thing, they're tools, just like the filters are tools. And one thing I say, when we're talking about the lifespan of, say, an ND, all the progress has been in low light performance of cameras. It's not been in getting dynamic range in bright sunlight. So in the cinema industry, an ND is vital. So when you make a feature film, everything is set to native. So you're going to use the ISO that is said at the best quality. You're going to use the aperture because you want to control the artistic look, and then you're going to control everything by either bringing up the lighting or bringing it down with filters.
Yeah.
So filters are for people who really want to get the absolute maximum quality. Something to say that you couldn't knock the aperture down, that you couldn't change the ISO, but when you really need the quality, you can go to filters. In photography, there's certain effects which are very hard to achieve, even now with AI tools, very long exposure work, things like that, where, there's that element to it where the filters still will be better. Yeah. And also there's a process. A lot of people, they take photography because they want to go do landscape photos. They want to go out, they want to take the photographs. So you're not doing that if you're typing it into Midjourney. Yeah. Yet sure, Midjourney will give you a great picture of a waterfall, but you've not had the experience of walking up to the waterfall, doing it, showing it to your friends. So you've lost a lot of that. Yeah, I can type beautiful waterfall in there, but that didn't mean anything. Yeah. Whereas if we go out, we take the tripods out, we take our cameras, we meet up with friends, we go and physically take the pictures, we have a good time, that was more important, that's more meaningful, and in a way the picture just is kind of just a facilitator. The photography facilitates you doing something, and I think that's missing from the AI. When we get to diffusion filters like Bloom's filter, it's interacting with what's actually there. So we've seen lots of kind of halation filters for various things, with editing systems for years, but they're just global effects. They're put on there what they think you're on, a streak pack that you stick on your photos. They don't actually engage with the stuff that's in the room. So as a cinematographer, when you're there with the director and you're like, let's move that light over here a little bit, that's a conscious decision. If you get to the edit and that light's in the wrong place, and then you've got some guy compositing for like 3 weeks to get it right, and people do notice. Sam touched on it. There's almost imperceivable thing that something is wrong, the uncanny valley. And it is the AI stuff and the effects, they're getting really good. And maybe they will get there soon. But we kind of know when something's off. And I think going back to Nolan, I think that's the reason he likes to be so practical, is because you don't necessarily know what's off, but you know it's off. Yeah. Something's not quite right on the way, something that doesn't look quite heavy enough. Yeah. It moves too quickly. And when you look at the way they filmed June, they did a lot of things to make it feel heavy. Yeah. They could have done loads of drone shots flying through and dynamic. They deliberately didn't, because they wanted to make it feel grounded and solid. Yeah. And I think with the AI, the temptation is to go, dump a spaceship in there, new mountain. And I think lots of us will have a play with the AI. A lot of us will enjoy having a bit of a play, with generative fill and things like that. But again, without creative intent, it doesn't really have a value. And I think we attribute value to the message that we put things on. And there will be people who can bring those tools and make something with AI that does have value. But I think you miss a lot of the picture. You're missing a lot of the craft, a lot of the camaraderie. One of the nice things about working on a film set is you're working with a team. Yeah. It's not solitary. So photography can be quite solitary, that some people like to get just focused. But something like a music video or a film, it's collaborative. And the collaborative process is why most of the people work in that industry. 100%. The end result isn't necessarily everything to it. It's about the relationships and things you build. And I do feel that sometimes that might be missing. Sometimes the money man will go, oh, you can do this now in a computer, do this. And we saw this with CGI. Toy Story came out and it was followed by a flood of really bad, cheap animations because it missed what Toy Story had, which was the craft behind it.
Yeah, it was the stories.
Yeah.
I think to circle back to the original question, I think these leaps and bounds of technology, particularly within camera systems and the assistance of AI, will see a day of dynamic range where you do have in-camera tools to not have to put an ND filter as such in the front. It's where we branch out with effects and diffusion as well. I mean, the one thing we've noticed going forwards, you look at Oppenheimer and it's shot at such a resolution, and digital cameras moving forwards such high resolution. Like you said, I shoot on a Komodo at 6K and an output of 6K, but I have that level of detail so that I can down it as well. So like one of the things we do, for instance, with Phillip Bloom filter is our diffusion filters. Not all our diffusion filters affect resolution. Some are about halation and speculative diffraction. So I mean, we perceive this going forwards. Another thing that bringing up about AI tools is mobile phones. When mobile phones started shooting 4K at 2460, so on and so forth, everyone lost their head and was like, we're all done for. We don't need these camera systems anymore. And they are great. They get in there, and these are things that we look to how these technologies are moving forward so that we can identify and produce items that people actually want to use. I in short, I think ND, or we've assigned the ND. There is a level, but as David said, there's also this pushback to go back to film, which you'll always need ND for. You're never ever gonna not need it.
Well, there's a piece that I want to do at some point soon, which is on kind of talking about film, on nostalgia, and the kind of way in which and it's probably one of the reasons I really enjoy the Bloom filter to a certain extent anyway.
Yeah.
But nostalgia, and why I think it's becoming more and more important when it comes to the way in which we see the world and the way in which we think about the world. Because, like, for me, I've got a lot of like interest in kind of like old footage, which I explained in the previous podcast. I think you've probably seen it. There's no need to go over that again. But you know, I think nostalgia for a lot of people is very real. And as technology gets more and more advanced, as the phones are getting more and more advanced, I think people really like something simple. I think Leica are probably on a rise because of that as well, because they are cameras that are designed to be dumb, but in a smart way.
I agree with that. I own the Komodo. Every red I've used, they're very simplistic. People expect to get hold of an Alexa. You know, we were recently using the Venice 2 show. People expect to get hold of it and find as many menus as you've got in all these Sonys here.
Like 3 buttons.
There's about 3 buttons that do 4 things. Because the rest of it, as David said, is done by people. So I think you're right. You know, and these are the big money making cameras that are used to make all of our favorite stories. So I think you're right. I think also with film, there's something textural. There's you know, it's almost the way I always look at it. I'm going to be a bit poetic, I guess, now, but the reason I love cinematography, and the reason that I like using filters as opposed to doing it in post, when I said earlier, we'll find you if you do it in post. Obviously there's things you have to do in post, but I think it's too easy to do that now. What I love about not doing it in post and being that deliberate is that as you said, I see light as information. You're capturing the information that's there, that was actually present. And so, like, when you consider what a piece of film is, and a piece of developed film is an actual capture of the actual scene that was there. Like, that's something a bit special, because it was physically there. When you do that in post, you don't get that, and so
I never thought of it like that. That's a really nice way of thinking about that.
It goes back to, like, I love mythologies. I'm very respectful of other religions, and so Native Americans, the reason that they weren't so afraid of photography when it was coming up through the Wild West, for lack of a better word, was because they believed it was capturing the soul. And when you think about it, it potentially actually was capturing the actual energy that's there. So you kind of, like, you hear people say that and you think, oh, that's cute at the time, when actually it's quite disrespectful, because realistically, if I take an image of this room, it is information that has come from this room. It's bounced light, it's collected chemically. So, like, I can take your DNA and that's exactly the same thing. The difference is there's a visual representation, because we found a way to so that's the way I perceive that. And I think as humans, on a deeper level, maybe we're also all thinking that too. Maybe it's just me. What's in this water?
that got deep really quickly. But again, kind of speaking on old method, and we met up the other day, of course, very briefly anyway. But we met up in Cardiff, and I saw your S5 with a very odd looking lens, but odd in the retrospect, where I think we ended up bonding a little bit over it, because I then took you to the camera center to look at some things.
Empty my bank account.
Empty your bank account. But the other side of that is what you've done there is completely rehouse a very popular lens, the 58. Was it
44-2?
58,
So Helios. So yeah, it's a Helios 44-2. I wish I would have brought it with me today. Perhaps we'll do another one. But yeah, I've got I 3D printed a housing for the Helios 44-2. Greg Fraser did the Pattinson's Batman. And you know, one of the lenses used for some of the scenes on there was Komodo with 44-2. Now, I've always been like, when I want to make you a deal on those boxes as well. At Camera Set UK, they've got boxes of just great stuff, like vintage, that I think is gold. Pop down and have a look. If you love vintage lenses, you won't leave. So for years, I've been members of vintage lens groups. We had the whole conversation how I used to have the FDs and I sold them before they went massive bucks. I'm still sore about that. But one of my favorites for the F2 flare has always been the Helios 44-2. So prior to Greg, but as you rightfully said, recently it's become very popular because it was used so wonderfully in that film. But yeah, I've taken one of those. It's difficult. Perhaps I'll send you a picture or a video so you can put it in. but I've rehoused it into a cine rehousing because I've yet to find a client that will allow me to use it on a shoe, because it's quite a look. But if anyone's out there and you want a really awesome looking shoot, I've got the lens.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah, and it's what Iron Glass have actually been doing quite well on, is that kind of stuff. But the other side of it is, I actually had, that it's a copy, right?
Which
the Helios is a copy. It's
I've got the original.
I had the original. Have you got the Carl Zeiss one?
At home.
Yeah.
I have the original that I will be. My brother. It's my birthday, so my brother's got this tech. It's like Iron Man's Techno device, 3D printer. So it's much better than the one I can use. So he's going to do it in this. I don't know. He'll be able to tell you about the plastics. But he's going to 3D print me a housing because we've got the file now to 3D print these housings for the Helios 44-2s. And I bought that from Camera Center UK. I bought the FD14. So I'm looking at a way of adapting my current housing file to house that FD5014 as well. Yeah. So not as like a commercial, just because I shoot a lot of cinema, having cine rigs on. So if I do have it, most of the time I'll do it myself, but if I have an AC who's going to focus pull, I want to have gears all over it, and I want it to sit with the rest of my lenses nicely. But so I've got the original, and hopefully by the end of this month I will have it rehoused as well.
I want to get that one rehoused, the 55 one too.
Well, we'll have to have a look, because
the bokeh on it is like.
Again, my brother's just he's just downloaded a load of programs that allow him to really manipulate the original file. So we're hoping we can just do like an expand, but they're obviously built differently. So
no, definitely. That thing's ridiculous. I somehow dropped it and then it became declicked, and it works perfectly.
A big fan of declick, so
I've tried to craft it in the conversation in a way. Yeah.
Lush. Just to touch on like something you said then, Harry, when you were talking about the Helios being an artistic lens, and like lenses today being very clinical. I think that's a big point about like Bloom's filter with other diffusion, because it ties in nicely. Other diffusers that we do, and you may or may not have one in here. That's the reason why we perceive diffusion being so popular going forwards, and not just your standard black mists, but we do a whole host of other products because of the clinicalness of modern day glass.
I also think with the vintage lenses, it's okay on a film set to use a vintage lens. It's great. In fact, we love them. They can be very hard to match cameras. So in a commercial sense, a diffusion filter can give you a lot of the characteristics of a vintage optic, but you can match it across different cameras much easier. So you might have a beautiful example of a 50-1.2, but you then got to match it to another 50-1.2. You've got to find a 50-1.2 that matches it. And that's where the companies like TLS in the film industry, they really rebuild lenses. But that's an expensive process. So you end up with a lens which costs, £5,000-7,000, because they've got to work. But also within photography, we talk about the sharpness, which is amazing. For me, having the resolution is great, because you can always knock it back. You can't put in what isn't there. But like a diffusion filter, they can help give your photos more cinematic things. So if you do cinematic portraiture or night photography, you want to look a film. So a lot of the black mist is popular because it replicates film without halation layer. So you get the lights blooming and things like that. So when you consider that film is fantastic, it's a very expensive one, because you've got to buy the cameras, which is not too bad, but then the actual film development costs can rack up quickly. So a lot of people, it might be that they still shoot film, but they want something on their phone or their compact camera or something like that, which can match a similar look. So the diffusion filters, a lot of that is a kind of also an element of film simulation, and we do those with screw-in filters, but also with filter holders. So you could be like a landscape photographer and you're used to your neutral densities, your grads, but then there's no reason you can't pop in a diffusion filter. And again, it's the same optics as if it was a big expensive cinema filter, but we can do them in different types, different sizes for different uses. And we've seen a real uptake now with photographers using diffusion. So that was the nice thing about the Welsh and West, was we were able to really bang the drum with people who traditionally wouldn't know what to do with a diffusion filter. They think of like some really old coke and mist filter, which is very, very heavy. They think, I don't want that. But then they can see the subtlety of something like a more diffractive filter, the more modern come like Bloom's, and how much it can bring to a portrait, the subtlety of it. but also the way that it can kind of just round off the digital, because there are those clients and those people who want to shoot everything pin shot.
Yeah.
A lot of people that can look too much.
So
going back to the technology, we've been asked a lot recently by volumetric companies who have the big wall displays to make filters to soften it off. Because of the pixel, particularly LED. So new technology also opens up, opportunities on that kind of product.
I think that comes down to like kind of linking it to what you said previously about kind of like camera tech and stuff like that. All right, so you've got a world where everything's so sharp. You've got 8K, you've got 12K, you've got all the Ks in between, and nostalgia for the days in which there was a little bit of softness for it. I think the fact that VHS cameras are being like, the old freaking handheld handicam, they're starting to become more and more popular because people like that feel of it, and this is what I like about the diffusion filters, and I think it is.
I've got a commercial shoot. I was supposed to have it on last Sunday, but on the way there my van blew up. It was great. So I've had to...
I didn't see any stories.
I've only just bought it as well. So I've rescheduled for Monday, and on that particular shoot, like, it's interesting. It's a problem for me because we have a massive running joke, Dave and I, in the office, that I'm a massive fan of dirty in my lens, and this is what we're talking about. Like, I'd love to take something clinical and put character to it, which is why I love vintage lenses. They are artistic. But I'm getting a lot of clients that want the clinical look, so I've had to repurchase different lenses for those specific shoots as well. And like this particular commercial shoot is that. So it is interesting that, and as David said, like, if you go clinical, so you buy a modern lens that's exceptionally sharp, you have the ability to take that back. You can't, if you've got a soft lens, then go forwards. I think it was yesterday we were talking about this. You can add sharpness in post. It looks disgusting. Don't do it. Everyone will know what you've done. I missed focus there. You can do it, but it's not as good as having the option to be deliberate going the other way as well. So,
I think the other thing we haven't mentioned is obviously that the fusions are done in strengths. They can go from very, very subtle, kind of not really there, right up to wow. Depending on what you want. I would never use a really heavy diffusion filters, but they're used on like dream sequences and music videos and really avant-garde work. Whereas something like an 8 for something you want to leave on your camera. You might always leave a Bloom Gold 8 on there just because it looks really nice and it rounds off your lenses and just helps everything kind of gel together better.
So they are I think the question was products that we use, products that we do. So we do offer that across the entire range. We've got our 85mm holder. For videography and gimbal work, I love. It's lightweight, it's great. We've got a 100mm holder, which is really popular with with photographers, but we're also starting to see it used on cine lifters as well. So big drones, big cine drones in the air, they use a 100mm holder. Obviously we do Panavision for Hollywood style cinematography, the big rectangle ones, and we do circular screw-ins as well. But going back to the original part when we first started this podcast, all the glass is the same across the entire board. It's just what flavor fits you best. Some of the people we met at Wales and West, it's great that we've continued the conversation with them afterwards. And so one particular customer we met there, we had a voice call with earlier this week, and they were trying to differentiate what was the best system that we sell for them. So like the 85mm holder that we do, where we can actually, sorry, it's true. The 85mm holder system that we do, which are 85 by 85mm squares, 100mm system we do is 100mm by 100mm squares. The 85 is great for gimbal work, and it's pretty much like a travel system.
It was designed around originally the Fuji XT system when it came out, so it was designed to be a professional but smaller system, which was lighter and fit in a pocket potentially. But what we found is because it's so light, it's brilliant for gimbals. So if your lens is up to 77mm, you get a polarizer and multiple slots, and it weighs next to nothing. So you're not messing your balance up. You can change filters about how to rebalance the camera particularly, and you're getting basically like a mini matte box. In that respect.
Pretty much. That's essentially what our holders do. I mean, everyone, if everyone knows what matte box is, it's very similar. Most of our holders come with light guards as well to provide a level of matte essentially. Yeah, I mean, we offer these across everything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what our smallest circle size is at the moment. We're currently
It's really small, like 36.
36.5 or 36.
I think it's one of the random vintage sizes that I don't think we can get.
DJI's just released the Inspire 3. We're seeing a lot of people buy our Inspire kit and step up rings as well, because they go together really well. We actually do a lot of stuff with the Top Gear and the Grand Tour team for aerials, and Format is actually the go-to for people shooting that kind of stuff.
New 55s are coming out imminently. We're taking pre-orders on the 55 for the new DJI kit, and obviously 46mm for the existing. But when it comes to things like Inspire, where the quality is very important, that's where people kind of, it's worth spending the extra. You bought this expensive drone system, you've got commercial clients, you don't want something letting you down cheap, guys. You're getting the absolute quality. And part of the reason that we went the way we did was because they wanted to match the drone to the ground. So they wanted to know that they could do the ND with matching edit, so it's quicker in the edit, saves you money there, but also diffusion, they could get the same thing on something in the air as they could on the ground. I mean, for years we've done stuff for helicopters where we've calibrated entire camera, so it's like bringing that experience down then to something that's more consumable, something that a consumer could buy, a normal person could use, but also keeping that professional quality.
Yeah, you talk about matching cameras with the BTS and the A cam, so on and so forth. We offer the whole range really. If you've got a lens that you want to stick filtration on, we've got a system to match for you. Yeah,
cool. So what's this?
Oh, okay. So this.
Get ready.
Obviously, we had a little bit of a discussion, and we wanted to come up with a challenge for you for a future video. So. There's a little something in here that's not, I mean, you can buy the individual components on our site. We're going to put it into this particular kit. It's not available yet, so we thought who better to test it for us than your man at Camera Centre UK. There's also a diffusion and filter in there that you might not be aware of, but going back to diffusion filters and items that we sell, we do black mist, we do white mist, we do silver, and obviously we've now got bloom gold as well. We've also got clears, so pick your flavor, but we've picked a flavor for you. However, we had one of our American associates put together something for you. So
for me, American associates, this is nice.
So you've got to listen.
Okay.
Stuart Lee Furbank, your mission, should you choose to accept it, use the contents of this mystery box to create an engaging narrative sequence based on time travel. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We were going to write it on paper, but we figured why.
Perfect. I mean, time travel capital of the world is Cardiff, right? If you like Doctor Who.
Well, we'll leave your creativity up to that.
Exciting. Is this just foam at the bottom?
Just the one.
Okay. Ooh. Sick.
So this is the 85 system we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So it normally comes with a CPR and all the accessories you'd need. We've also got something a bit special in there which converts it into a variable ND.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So something a bit new. It's not out yet. You were the first person to get sight on this
I'm the
kit.
first person.
Very first person outside of Formatt Hitech.
Ooh. Is this allowed to go out Sunday?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why we brought it. So we had a discussion previously about internal, and I brought it up on your podcast about internal neutral density. My opinion is quite a strong one. I just don't think they're there yet. But we're working on different levels of ND, and as we said before, everything we do is to Hollywood standard. So getting the R&D down to where we've got something that consumers might consider affordable as an ND is something different. With this system, this particular system, the 85mm holder, we do a 100mm holder. They are the square slots of filters. You get the option of stacking up to 3 because there's more blades inside that you can unscrew and add. And as David said, you also get a CPL circular polarizer for photography. I think have you done a video on CPLs? I think you have. No, about removing light reflection. Anyway,
no, we haven't done a video on CPLs.
So,
I do want to do it because for product stuff, it's actually really useful. So how did first of all, soft silver. So that's
the diffusion.
That's the silver version of the Phillip.
It's very
Gold.
Same
technology. Yeah. So with Philip's particular filter, we've obviously worked with Philip for quite some time now to develop the look as he wanted it to be perceived. So although that, you know, diffusion is very similar across the board, what we find with our metallic range is you have what we call speculative diffraction, where the information is still captured, the resolution is not dropped. You still get a halation effect, but the information is essentially, without being too scientific, the light explodes when it hits particulates. So yeah, it's very similar, but it's of a different particulate.
How did you get the variable ND to work on a square piece of glass?
Well, what's happening is it's working with the CPL in the holder. So a variable ND is not actually a neutral density, traditionally speaking. It is polarizers acting together. And in the film industry, you'll have two physical filters. Now, the only downside is you might get a little bit of X if you're not careful. So you just got to be wary of it. But with the holder, because you can always move the CPL by bringing a high quality cinema grade linear polarizer in front, by twisting that now CPL at the back, you're able to control the exposures.
Oh man.
So it's really it's more like it's more like a cinema system. In cinema, you have big rotating screens for this, and they cost a lot of money. So it's like, how can we bring that into something? And again, with the videography market, we're thinking this is a travel kit. You want to be moving fast. You don't always want to be stopping and putting ND. Although it's compatible with solid ND, and you could stack the VND with a solid ND to get darker.
And a gradual.
But you've got grads. You've got so much flexibility. What I want to do is give like really professional products with loads of flexibility for the user at a more affordable price. And because it's 85mm, it's smaller and therefore it's cheaper. So we're very honest about our pricing. The more glass you have, the more it costs. You know, it's quite kind of logical way of working, because the materials themselves are quite expensive, but the quality that you get is extremely high end. As I say, it's exactly the same as if you were a feature film coming to us. We treat it exactly the same.
Yeah, that's sick. I would get them out of the packaging, but I don't want to oil them up. So
they make me wear gloves.
Yeah,
You
no,
have to wear gloves, yeah.
I'm going to have
Gloves,
to
right,
some gloves. Listen, you should add gloves in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe,
yeah.
That's sick.
I say they're actually quite robust. So if you did get them dirty, you can even wash them in the sink.
Yes, it's not.
But I mean, obviously, something like a Zeiss wipe, a lens wipe is probably the best way to go with most people, or a lens cloth. But they're relatively easy to carry.
So with CPL, a lot of people don't realise the reason the VND variable NDs start off at 2 stops is because the CPL is essentially 1 stop of light reduction on its own. So when you put 2 together, 1 and 1 is 2. So most NDs, NDs, don't go from 0 to, so from flat to then levels of density. They start at 2. So that automatically you get 2 stops of dynamic range drop. And then with the wave retardants in there as they move, it reduces the light being reflected into the sensor.
Nice.
So
I'm excited. Genuinely excited. It feels great. Like, actually, I love things that are metal. Things that are metal. That sounded better in my head, but
no, we get it.
Yeah, so it's
build quality.
the build quality, you can tell it's really well thought out. And of course, you got the rings in there for the different size of filters. You got an 82 in there, I'm guessing. Yeah.
This one doesn't go to 82 because of the size. This one goes up to
Part of your
77.
challenge.
77.
So the 100mm then.
So you've
carries the
decided to
bigger
throw
sizes.
my prize lens out of the door. Okay.
Well, you can use your vintage.
Yeah.
vintage
I mean,
lenses.
you got that as well. Yeah.
We
Definitely work
do.
with that.
So on that point, we do have a 100mm holder system that is designed to go to that level. But you wanted a challenge, so we.
No, the challenge is good because I am too comfortable with that lens,
Yeah.
and I need to not be too comfortable with that lens. So I think in that thing, I think you've weighed me.
Yeah, we took a look
You've
at
gone
we
with
took a look,
Thanos,
we took a look at you, and the Sigma does come up time and time again.
A little bit too much.
Yeah,
like,
so
no,
we
honestly,
thought, how can we challenge, the great Stuart Lee Furbank?
the great Stuart Lee Furbank.
So again, this is a system a lot of people don't know about. The reason we primarily went with it as well was that conversation going back to the customer. They travel a lot. They do a lot of travel vlogs. They do a lot of gimbal work, and so they didn't want something. They couldn't use a matte box. It was too heavy. So they wanted something where they could add different levels of filtration without having to constantly screw on, screw off. And so this is your pretty run and gun equivalency to, and it's the same stuff all of our award-winning photographers use as well. It's just a smaller version. The larger version is available, as David said. It's slightly more expensive because there's more of it and there's more glass. That is available as well to purchase. But you wanted a challenge. So we haven't produced. On our site, the linear polarizers are now available. We haven't produced it as a set as of yet.
But you won't be producing this as a set.
Well, we'll see what you do with it.
See what I do with it. Okay, fun.
No pressure.
Yeah. we prefer to get our feedback from the people that use our products rather than us telling people what they should be doing with them.
I'm excited. I'm going to put these back in there correctly.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted. Oh, obviously. Challenge accepted. Sounds like fun.
Based on time travel.
But mine's going crazy, so if I'm sounding a little bit spaced out,
No,
it's just like I'm piecing together literally the entire thing in my head right now as we speak.
We were going to do it like just an action sequence.
I love the box as well.
It's yours.
Yeah.
If you can fight Harry.
I'm still waiting for mine.
I didn't know that. We would have brought two. Okay, we can sort that.
So we can make the boxes up.
I want the Welsh logo so we can put it in our display cabinet downstairs.
We can
We'll sort it out. Yeah, that's it.
we can get that done. No problem at all. Again, the wood is recumbence of wood. It's something that David, I can't remember when you pointed it out or who it was to, but we've actually gone down like 3 skip sizes from waste reduction.
We've actually changed our waste reduction company from recycling.
Yeah, that's a good question. They call me the magpie because when I arrived, I went through the bins because there was this stuff being thrown out. I was like, "What's wrong with that?" And it had to be shown on a telescope, and I'm like, "Oh no, microscope, sorry." And I was like, "Well, if the microscope is struggling to see it, a camera sensor is going to struggle to see it." But at the same time, our primary function is supplying the cinema industry, and they have to have a prestige level. So all the stuff that we shoot with, all the stuff that I shoot with commercially
Is reject.
Honestly, I'll challenge you the money I'm being paid for the shoot to find it. You won't. So we started to look at these things on how we can reduce that footprint. And one of the ways is also the 85mm system, because essentially, as we said at the start, it's the same glass through the same process. That if like it's an ND or a silver or something, Phillip Bloom's is slightly different because it's a product designed specifically to his taste. But I mean, like, they're all still circles that we can actually, if there's a chip here or a scratch there, something, some kind of blemish that hasn't passed our quality control, we can just chop that off and produce a smaller product. So that's why we're going down to smaller circles. We're looking at doing the inspired drones as well. We do the inspired drones because something that needs to be Panavision 4x56 like that, if it's got a tiny little bit here, well, we can make a ton more other functions out of that. So that's what we started doing.
I think sustainable.
And so you take something that would have been that size in a skip and you put it to something that size. We're always going to have waste, unfortunately. It's something we're still looking into, how we can improve levels of QC. The reason we don't say everything is handmade is because the polishing process required to not affect resolution of the sensor it can't be done on a human level. It can't physically be done. We do it to such an extent that if we want to do scientific checks, we have to send it away to specific machinery to ensure that it is still at that level. And so when you consider that, machines, they go out of sync every now and then. We do our best to stay on top of that. And again, our QC process on that is in my opinion, dramatic, but necessary for the industry we shop for. And so we're always going to have waste to an extent. I think it's naive of any company to believe that as humans, we create waste inevitably. But you pointed it, I can't remember where we were at a show, or we were, I think we were speaking to some universities, and like I hadn't physically realized, because I went to go to the skip to take something out, I think it was. We're opposite Dragon's Den. I think I was going to visit my family, my kids during lunch hour, just to see them. And I was like, where's the skip? And it's that small. There's, like, wow, we've really done it. Like, we're really doing it.
It's also an element. We don't print unnecessary documentation now. We're trying to do as much of that digitally as possible, because we don't want to produce just things that go in the skip. A lot of it is manufacturing on demand. So certain products will keep a certain amount of stock in, but other times you'll order it and we'll make it. So a lot of people don't realize that the reason it's a 5-day delivery or whatever like that is because we're physically making it. It didn't exist ready as a finished product yet.
I think sustainability is becoming more and more important as businesses progress.
And we're looking to try and move towards something that's kind of like packaging on demand. So although the wood might look more premium, more expensive as an item, which we like, it's completely recyclable. And actually we want people to keep the box, even if you put your knickknacks in it, your memory cards and stuff like that. We want you to keep the box. Whereas so many times we've had beautiful packaging from like cameras and stuff like that, but straight in the bin.
Yeah.
You know, so we wanted something where you'd want to maybe keep it, or if you didn't, it's biodegradable.
Yeah.
And rather than buying in, when you buy boxes from a manufacturer, you buy them in by thousands.
Yeah.
And there's always some left over, there's always some damage. If we handle the manufacture in our own company, we could take that care to individually make sometimes what we need, or to make small batches, which again means you don't get the mistakes. You know, because they're skilled people who are operating the machinery, they know how it works. And because they're not rushed in doing it, it's not you will make 5,000 boxes this morning, you'll make 5.
Yeah.
You get like less waste from that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There is no conveyor belt. There's no mass production with us at all.
Yeah.
It is almost to the point of, other than a couple of machines that do jobs humans can't. And it's not we weren't replacing human work. We just physically can't get our level with them. Everything is almost, we call it artisanal because it is. It's almost handcrafted.
Even with my 35 on at f2.8 with the Phillip Bloom filter, you'd expect a real downgrade in sharpness, but I was actually able to save a camera that was down through that camera, and we're on shot on 4K and still zoomed in, and there wasn't much in terms of like actual quality.
So at Wales and West, we did our best to show a lot of visitors there, like to challenge us. We had Rexy 709, our dinosaur on stand. Other than being just a good joke, he was there because it shows.
Okay,
There we are.
we're coming to the end anyway.
Yeah.
Did that finish? Did that just go down then? Did it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Never mind. Yeah. So the dinosaur shows it has ridges, so it shows the levels of resolution. And the difference with our metallics, as opposed to like a standard black mist, which everyone knows about nowadays, is that speculative diffraction. So the light information is refrained. It's just broken up. So the way a black mist filter works, in case the viewers don't know, is obviously it forces the sensor, or the sensor's unable to focus across the entire plane. And again, the difference with our filters, most of them are sprayed on, so it is it's one dimensional. It's across one single plane.
Yeah.
With ours, it's the particulates are spread within, I forget the measurement, but there's
0.5 mils normal.
Yeah.
It does depend on the particular product.
there is actual depth there as well. And so like with Philip's product being a metallic particulate with the gold, or Philip's version of the gold, you're still getting that information, so you don't drop resolution, but you get that beautiful halation and golden hour effect.
Sick. What were you saying before we got distracted by the cameras? Sorry, I was just trying to remember that.
Something I wanted to touch on.
Were we talking about waste? And then now and then what?
No, there was something I wanted to say. So that's something that the way that we are able to offer these different filters. The silver that you've got in your kit today was developed for automotive commercial industry, for particular brands to shoot. They wanted the crispness of the lines to their cars, but the LEDs on a camera look terrible, so they wanted a nice filmic halation to them without dropping any resolution. So those metallic particulates in the silver, that's what they were designed to do. We were only able to do that by working with cinematographers. So if anyone's out there, including yourself or anyone, and you have an idea and you want to work on with us, this particular variant D that you've got, system design, has it's a brainchild of David's and another influencer that we were speaking to, because they were like, why don't you just do this, because I love my 85mm holder. And David had already gone ahead with this, so it was literally a case of taking what David had technologically applied and making it. And there we are, we have it there. So if anyone's out there that you have a particular idea, we spend a lot of time having cinematographers, music video cinematographers, or anybody within the film, photographers. We get our knowledge from people actually using it in the field, rather than us going, you should be using this. So we welcome an email, a call, whatever. If you've got an idea and you want to work on something, that's where these products are born. They're from industry professionals, not from the company, essentially.
Awesome.
Can I ask you to do some silver in the set of MDs of it? No. Like if you have MD shells, can you put the glass in them?
We'll have to look. We'll have to look.
Yeah.
I've got a set of Polar Pro and variable and
shells,
Yeah,
empty.
basically supply, just push that out.
You'll probably do a resin. Complete the weight down. That might be easier with laser cutting then.
I personally think we can.
We will double check. We might be able to make you something. We'll probably make it out of resin and laser cut to fit.
Brand new kit.
So I've been very vocal, and David has as well. I'm like an echo of David because I'm coming in late about covering things like GoPros, so on and so forth. The difficulty is because they change so often. We just had the Air 3, the Osmo Action 4. There's like 4 a month, and like the tooling of that is expensive versus how many you're going to sell. And unfortunately for us, we really would love to cater for everyone. We've had some people say, "Oh, can you make a filter that does this, this, and this?" Going back to that point, and we'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely, we can," but it's only you who's going to use it. So for us as a company, unfortunately, we do have bills to pay. We make you one. That's a lot of waste as well. It goes against what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, it is possible, but I think that's quite doable. Yeah, exactly. No,
That might be.
Yeah.
Offcuts from the skin, you know.
It might even be a service that we're able to tailor to offer, or you're able to offer through Camera Centre UK. I think that's another way we could reduce our scrap, because such a small sensor you're not going to pick up. That's a good idea, actually. There we are, and we do. No, that's great. We actually do this stuff. We'll have Emmy Award winning, BAFTA Award winning cinematographers coming down and going, "Boys, I really want to do." We had a Zoom call with a couple of them last month, and they were like, "We really want to do this," and we're like, "Okay, we'll get back to you," and it gets done. So
one guy's just come back from Bolivia. He wanted us to put polarizers in his ND.
Yeah,
as a single filter. So he's raving about those now.
It's
of course,
great.
that's not something that exists on the shelf, but we can do a lot.
We made 2, and I've got the other one, and I love it. Polarizer and ND. I was anti-polarizer. I only use them in specific things like productions. Yeah, and he has it. It's like
So,
for a windscreen, if I was I did some things like I'd be in the back of a car, like shooting the Komodo through another windscreen, or running a gimbal like into the driver's shot, and yeah, obviously you use CPL then because you want to get rid of that reflection. But other than that, I was like, they're niche, they're photographers.
the thing is, people don't realise them as well for glare, sun glare, but also glare off plants.
Yep.
So people don't. When you get a drone, you start to realise it's reflective.
Yeah,
everything
you probably schooled me on that one.
So sometimes you can just bring it so much contrast and vibrance to the shot using the polarizer. Downside being if you out taking really wide shots, polarized light is only removed, so you can end up like kind of hatching across the sky. Landscape photographers are like 14 men and stuff. You can get this strange effect because you've removed the polarized light at 90 degrees to the source, but not the other light. So you can end up with kind of.
That's great. The ND polarizer is great. Like I want it I want us to offer it as a line. So there's stuff like that we do that we're not going to think about. I shoot cinematography, but I have a day job as well, so my time is limited. As you know, as a creator, your time is limited to what you're doing. So outside of that, you relaxing, spending time with family, creatively thinking. That kind of time is like it's the sleepless nights where you're awake, that you get to do that, and you try not to do that so often. So yeah, we always welcome people bring us ideas because we don't know it all.
Today has been sick. That isn't me well, it is me bringing an end to the podcast, but it's also has been really nice to talk to you both. Thank you for this. My mind has literally been racing.
Cool.
Genuinely have already figured out the first 5 minutes. It's crazy that as a creator sometimes, but brain is just full blown at the creative block, like not creative block, creative, it's like free flow. Have you ever been in that way? You just can't.
That's what we wanted to achieve.
You've done it.
Good.
I don't even know how I'm gonna.
Not in a stressful way though. If you get stressed, ring us up.
No, I love a challenge. I do, but genuinely been a pleasure. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure.
So that was the podcast from Formatt Hitech. It was really interesting speaking to the both of them. I definitely learned a lot, and I can't wait to utterly destroy the video. It's going to be absolutely awesome. I've got so many ideas, and I can't wait to show you. Keep an eye on the channel. And on that, make sure you subscribe to see more podcasts, more informational videos, and reviews of products as well. Hope you have a good day. Ta.